the real thing? Yes, they are. Ooh, they're very delicate. He's brought his bees. He's brought some drones, the queen bee, and he's brought much more as we continue with our closer look at the Cape Cod Museum of Natural History. We'll be back right after news. Campbell has, of course, brought some ale white, and he put them up, fried them in a pan, and wants me to taste them. We'll see about that. He's also brought a horseshoe crab, some bees, and much more. Let me formally introduce you, Mr. Michael Campbell. You, of course, are coordinator of all the exhibits at the Cape Cod Museum of Natural History, including this one that we're going to see a little bit later. But what's in here so we can just tell people before?
Yeah. I got some bay scallops.
Oh.
And in a little basket, I got some starfish and actually a couple other animals that I'd like to introduce to your viewers.
Be kind of fun.
Yeah.
We have a beautiful magnifying glass, too, and we'll see through there, and you can really get a good look at what they're doing.
I don't know, how well can your camera pick that up?
We'll pick it up. Don't worry about a thing. You brought all kinds of good things with you because that's really what's available at the museum all year round. And tell me, first of all, the types of exhibits that you do have there.
Well, for those who haven't visited the museum lately, we've come a long way since last summer when we moved into our new addition. We've got several exhibits that are now completed, the bird room and the marine room, and several new exhibits. We have a new habitat enclosure for our snakes, turtles, and toads. And we expanded our bee exhibit. And we got a weather station and a lot of other exhibits that are just coming together. Yeah, the Hawks of Massachusetts are up for, well, till the end of the month. And there are several new exhibits that will be coming in the months ahead.
That's great. Some of the exhibits are permanent, and others change all the time. So just because you've been there once is no reason not to go back again and again and again. New quarters now, and it had to more than have doubled your ability to provide exhibits for the community.
Well, aside from the gift shop and several other facilities that were expanded, we have about 3 times the exhibit space. And what's really nice about it is that it's year-round exhibit space now versus we had a seasonal building that was only available a few months out of the year. And of course, even throughout the year, the activities of the animals sometimes change. And of course, one of the things that you notice this time of year is the activity of the bees.
Yes.
They have been quite busy these past few
Busy
weeks.
little bees.
That's right. And I brought a few with me.
You did. You made this case especially to bring to this show. It's like a little traveling bee exhibit. So why don't you pick it up and bring it over here? And I'll hold one end of it. I mean, I've done these at the fair, so I know a little bit about bees. Let's put them right here so we can see. This is a little traveling exhibit of a bee colony.
This is about 1/10 of the observation hive we have at the museum. It's probably about, well, maybe close to 500 to 1,000 bees here. And of course, the beehive can get up to about 75,000, possibly 100,000 bees in a colony.
Really?
Ours is a little smaller than that, but we have quite a lot of bees that are.
How many bees are in this?
This particular one right here? I'm guessing now, you can count them, but it's probably between about 500 to 1,000.
And they're not crowded in here?
They're probably a little tight. Typically, though, they live in very tight quarters. In a hive, the observation hive we have at the museum, there are 10 frames like 5 on the bottom and 5 on the top, and they lie very close to each other, and you like it that way.
Is the queen in here?
Actually, you know, quite by accident, we did end up taking the queen.
You can show
this is one of the more common questions that we have at the museum, and the way the exhibit is set up there, it's difficult to see sometimes because she likes the darker quarters. But the queen is right here, actually. To the layperson, you may not necessarily notice a big difference between the queen and the workers, but you can see her abdomen is quite long, and of course she has her eggs in there. Queen is fertilized once in her life, and produces up to 2,000 eggs a day during the summertime.
A day?
When she's really into the egg.
She works hard.
Yes, she does. And of course, well, she might be laying an egg right there, actually. You see her going right into the cell there.
Is that where she lays? Can you show me again with that pen? Just point to where she is.
Right there.
Yeah.
She's got her abdomen stuck down in that little cell there, so I suspect she's probably depositing an egg. Actually, the way it turned out, if I could turn this around for just a second. It's difficult to see because I have a ventilation screen, but you can see some cells right along in here through the screen. These are capped cells with eggs in them, developing larvae.
Yeah, I can see those.
Bees. And depending on the size and shape of these little capped cells here, you can tell whether or not it's going to be a drone or a male bee or one of the worker bees. And actually, if it was a queen being developed here, it'd be a peanut-sized little cap on the cell.
Very few queen, Harrison, when we talk about the birth of the bees. No, but I mean, when you have to have a queen bee born at some point.
Yeah, so occasionally the queen might die, or when the hive gets up to a certain number where they're a little too crowded for their hive, they'll swarm, and the queen will leave and take a good portion of the hive with her. And what's amazing is that most of these eggs that are laid will develop into sterile females. But in the event that the queen leaves, the bees can feed these cells what they call royal jelly, and they can develop what would have been a field worker into a new queen, and do that periodically.
You've brought some comb with you, and can you just put that back on the
Actually,
table?
before I put this down, could I just point out
Sure.
there's also the females, but in here you'll know some larger bees. These are the drones, males.
Okay.
And what's interesting about them is they don't do any work. Their chore in life is simply to fertilize the queen. Maiden queens go out for a flight, and they fly up quite high. And the strong drones that are able to keep up with her are able to mate with the queen. And that's basically all they do. They're fed by the workers, and they have a life of luxury. But it's probably too good to be true, because what happens towards the end of the year, when fall approaches and the bees start battening down for winter, they'll kick the drones outside, and they typically would either freeze or starve. So,
Interesting.
there's a moral to that story there someplace, but I don't know
think
how
there
right
is. You have some drones in here. You said they aren't too happy. What do you mean?
Well, let
Can I
me
just
see.
hold that?
Oh, okay. I was going to open it up.
Yeah, well, wait.
Oh,
So I get away from it. I want to be sure. You're going to open this up?
Yeah.
What if they fly away?
Well, they're pretty timid. Bees typically are very timid when they're out of the hive, because they're really a social animal.
Okay, now wait till I just get out of the way. There you go.
Come on, fly. Actually, drones, also what's interesting about drones, let me hold this up
Okay,
here.
why don't you hold it right
They don't
there?
have any stinger.
They don't?
Yeah. So if you're sharp enough, and you can tell the difference between your females and your drones.
Okay, can you turn him out that way so we can see him? There we go. Here, okay.
There we go.
Huh?
If you're sharp enough to be able to tell the difference between the drones and the females, then you can just pick these up, and you don't have to worry about being stung.
It looks like a fly.
I might add too, of course, bees tend to evoke a lot of emotion from people, because there are some people who are particularly sensitive to bees. But if a person is around bees, the best advice is to move very slowly, very calmly, not to get excited and start swatting. And typically, the bee wouldn't sting you. Usually, it's a defensive reaction on their part if they're
rather than actually saying,
that's right.
Let's go get Nancy Lancaster.
Well, if you're going to do something to the hive, or if they're threatened, they might try to sting you, but otherwise they would just as well avoid you.
Tell me about this.
Well, I brought two different kinds of combs here. This is made completely by the bees. The bees have a little gland on the abdomen where they produce some wax. They take it and shape it with their mouth, and you can see it's a perfect six-sided cell here, or hexagon. And they either deposit nectar, which will eventually form the honey, or they can put pollen, which is another kind of food they use for the bees, or they can also plant their eggs in there, deposit their eggs.
Well, then what is this? If you can hold this.
Well, beekeepers...
They made that.
Beekeepers will typically use what they call a foundation frame here. You can see there's a beeswax impression, very thin, on the frame. This is a way of coaxing the bees to be able to produce their hive in an orderly fashion, so they're able to manage them. Of course, beekeepers are in the business of harvesting honey, and they remove these and replace empty ones. That's right. And it makes it a little easier. Otherwise, the bees might randomly place the comb throughout the box.
So the bees have an easier time with them. They don't have to make their own. They can just use this. And then you just pull these out and harvest this.
Full of honey, hopefully.
Hopefully.
And actually, by giving them a little start, too, you're devoting their resources or their energies into producing honey rather than producing wax, because it does take some energy or some nectar to produce the wax. So you're really giving them a head start.
Before we take a break, can you just bring out your little friend next to you and tell me about him?
Well,
does he have a name?
This is a horseshoe crab. And,
okay.
This animal is usually found along our shores this time of year. It comes up along the beach. Can I hold it right here?
You can, sure, I think, okay.
Here we go. It's a horseshoe crab. Unfortunately, there's a lot of misconceptions about this animal. It's not a true crab at all, related to spiders and scorpions. And another misconception, of course, is that it can harm people. Of course, it looks rather
harmless.
Fearsome. That's harmless. Its tail is not a stinger, but simply used to upright it should it happen to turn over on its back. And let me see here.
They have little feet. That's the first time I've ever seen.
The large one is a female. Typically, the females are larger than the males, and the one behind there is the male. And if I can flip this around...
You've got two there?
Yeah.
Oh.
Two. Well, kind of hard to hold and point this out at the same time, but let me see how I can do it.
Why don't you try, because I'm not going to.
Sure. Here, give me a hand. The male would have this little bulbous claw on his first set of legs. And it uses that to hold on to the female while it's traveling around looking for a good place and time to lay its eggs. The female lays the eggs, and the male follows behind it and fertilizes it. And aside from not being able to sting, of course the tail, again, is just to flip itself over. The mouth is located right in the center of the legs right here. And actually the legs form part of the mouth parts. And it's incapable of biting. You can take your finger and stick it right there, and it's just impossible.
Very valuable animal, especially the blood, the
That's right.
had blood.
Not only is it harmless, but it's also helpful to people. They extract the blood, and the blood has a lot of unique properties to it. One of them is to be able to detect endotoxins and impurities in blood or in pharmaceuticals, and they use that for testing different kinds of drugs. And they also use it...
Is that an eye right there, or is it just...
Well, this has got a lot of marine growth on it, barnacles and some seaweed. But it has two large eyes right here and right over here. You can see this one even better. And two small ones that you probably can't see in this one because of the marine growth. Right up here. This is a compound eye and two simple eyes right here.
When we come back, I want to take a closer look at this, and also you've brought some alewives with you, and I guess we're going to look for the roe.
Well, I'm gonna,
is that right?
I'm gonna treat you to a little cod traditional dish.
Okay. Mike Campbell and I will be back right after this. Please stay with us. From the Cape Cod Museum of Natural History, what's next? We've already seen the horseshoe crabs, which I really didn't want to help you show, but these little critters look harmless enough. What have we got in here?
Well, I've got some base scallops, and I've got some other animals in a basket here, but before I even get to these animals, I thought I'd start with this guy over here. This is probably one of the more well-known creatures of the sea, the starfish. There's a group of people also trying to change the name to a sea star because of the misnomer there, with it's certainly not a fish. But this is a specimen I picked up in the Chatham fish pier, and I thought I'd just point out a couple different things here. It's a rather unique animal, and maybe I'll quiz Nancy here and ask her what would you think this little orange dot is right here.
Can you just tilt that up a little bit? What do I think that little orange dot is? That's his eye or his mouth?
That's a good guess. It's probably
or his
one of the most common reactions.
Or?
They're all good guesses. It's a sieve plate, actually. It's where the animal draws seawater to work its eggs. And I'm going to flip this over here, and you can see what I mean. This animal operates on sort of a hydraulic system. You've got a whole series of tube feet, and in a minute those will start rising and moving around. And on the ends of the feet are little tiny suckers. And the animal moves by extending these little tube feet and sticking the suckers on rocks and other hard places, and it slowly walks using its tube feet. In order to operate these, it's got a hydraulic system. It uses the little orange dot, draws the water through there, and creates a certain amount of water pressure in there. One of the interesting things about starfish is that if you should happen to break it, or if it should get destroyed by another animal, it can regenerate or grow arms. Most people are probably familiar with that.
Fascinating. Contribution, does it go in this
Now,
stuff?
well, actually, one of the reasons why I brought it in is because I also wanted to point out the propulsion system, the ability of the base sculpt, this trim. This is, of course, quite a popular culinary treat here in the Cape. This is base sculpt. Unfortunately, it isn't as abundant as the sea scallops and some of the other scallops that you find in restaurants more often anyways. But it's as a clam or a mollusk, it's very highly developed. If you can see the little blue dots along the edge, those are highly developed eyes. They have optic nerves and a little iris in there. And they probably can't see as well as we could, but they can certainly tell shades and large objects coming away. It's got little tentacles, those little hairs coming out, that also could detect the presence of other animals that happen to come its way. There's another animal that's closely related to the base scallop, the squid and the octopus, which is totally done away with its shell, but it has a highly developed eyes, tentacles, and swims by jet propulsion. What I'm going to do, this is a typical enemy of the clams. But I'm
You're going to put him in there?
well, fortunately for the bay scaup, they're able to move, unlike some of the other, like a
Get
quahog.
ready.
Like a quahog.
Wait a minute now. Don't drop it in yet till we're all set. Now, what are you going to do? You're going to drop it down there?
Yeah. And,
Okay, go ahead.
It'll take a minute for the scaup to realize what's happening because typically starfish don't jump on top of the sheepfish like you see here. So it'll take a second for the scaup to realize
He says, hey, what's happening?
that there's something around here.
Uh-huh.
Now, I should point out, too, that the way that the starfish goes about eating its prey is it's able to take its stomach, turn it inside out, and digest the shellfish while still in its shell. And that's why it can get into quahogs and other animals. And here we go.
What's happening to our little guy?
Here we go. Now, he's pretty tucked out. He's a busy morning. Maybe I'll drop the big one in here. And you can
Okay. Go right ahead.
And we'll try the one over here.
Okay. On the other side?
Yeah.
All right.
And see what happens. Actually,
See what happens
this
right
one here
there?
might eventually move, too.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, you can get the idea. What they do is they take the shell and they clap it in a series of rapid motions here, and they shoot out little jets of water that propel it through the water. They can't move very far, but it's certainly enough to move it a few inches, if not a few feet.
Oh,
You know,
there
get out
our
of
guy
harm's
goes.
way.
Look at the
There
other
we go.
guy's going crazy over there. That's why they call them dancing clams.
That's right.
Isn't it? Look what he's doing way at the other end.
Kind of interesting.
Isn't that fun? Now watch, he's opening.
I'd tell kids about here do it, the other one coming
The
along
other
now.
one's going
There we go.
too. Oh, look. That's amazing. Dancing clams.
What's
Look
unique
at that.
What's unique about the scaup
He's
is
right
that
up
they're
top of the
also very
water.
short-lived. They only live to be 2 years old, which is kind of interesting because unlike other shellfish, you don't have to worry about managing the resources and leaving a brood stock because after 2 years they die of natural causes and that's it. So they typically harvest it after the second year, so whatever you don't take is going to die anyway. So
Isn't that
it's
interesting?
something that you can harvest.
I want to be
if you
sure,
want.
and I don't mean to rush you. I know that you could play with the dancing clams all day, but you did bring some alewives
sure,
with
yes,
you.
and I wanna get to
And
that,
I
too.
know that you will be very upset if we run out of time without doing this little demonstration that you said you designed, especially for me. So
Well,
what is this all
Again,
about now?
this time of year, spring
Okay.
arriving, one of the signs of spring is the annual passage of the alewife, also known as a herring. You know,
Can
when
you just hand that to me, and
Sure.
we'll just tip them up so if
I've
anyone
got a-
doesn't know what an
I've got a-
alewife looks like?
Well, I can even pick one up here. We don't have to
Okay.
be too squeamish. Or you can
Okay.
pick one up.
Go right ahead.
Let me hold this up here.
Okay.
Now, most people refer to these as a herring. You know, the herring are running and whatnot. But the true name for this fish is the alewife.
Okay.
It has another cousin by the name of herring. What I'd like to do is show you one way that this animal is utilized.
Okay.
And it's the roe. Now, the most of the rules for harvesting alewives require that you take all the fish, both the males and females, but you can really only eat the females. And how you tell the difference once you bring them home is you squeeze the abdomen, and this would be the roe, or the eggs squeezing out. It's a red
Mike,
color.
how could you do that?
Well, you know, the hamburger you had last night didn't grow on a tree now. Take care of the cow, but we always
Why are you doing that?
Now, typically, if it was a male, it'd be white sperm would come out there, and of course you wouldn't use that. Maybe
Can we
to
get a
fertilize.
shot of you doing that again? Just
Well,
show
I'd like
it.
to just show you how to take the roe out if I could.
Oh, okay, go right
I know
ahead
we're running
now.
out of time here.
Yeah.
And you firmly grasp the head.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see, there we go.
Yeah.
Firmly grasp the head. This is rather grotesque, too, so...
Okay, I'll shut
And I
my
should
eyes.
remind your viewers, this is not a typical museum demonstration. This is an exclusive for Nancy's show here. And you break this bone by the gill, and you run your thumb along the inside. It's important to use your thumb rather than a knife because you don't want to break the delicate membranes of the roe. You want to be able to take this sack of eggs out completely. Is that all right? Yeah, where are we here?
Well,
Okay. And you got to reach in there,
Yeah.
and you want to grab those little sacks.
Draw them out of
What
the...
you want
Yeah,
to eat?
that's right.
This is the roe,
Uh-huh.
10,000
Eggs or more.
Uh-huh.
And if you roll them in a little flour, butter,
And
some
here we
onions
are.
and garlic and whatnot, to come up
And
with some
this is
fried
your
white roll.
brunch or an early
Yeah,
dinner
it's
for you.
excellent, hot or cold. Makes a little snack in here. And then,
A gourmet
how
cook.
you want to take
Awesome. Thank you so much for being with us.
Quite
And,
welcome.
we'll take a nibble on this and
I'll
say
make sure
goodbye.
it's right.